Hi, everybody. I'm Dennis Daly. I spent 20 years with United Press International, most of it with the old UPI Radio Network. And my favorite assignment was going on the road producing and hosting American Montage. It was an hour-long weekly program. Now here's an edited version of one of those shows. Hi again, everybody. It's a safe bet you know the voice of Jane Barbe, even though you might not know who she is. For decades, if you called information or got a wrong number or called up for time and temperature, you heard Jane Barbe.
I'm sorry, all circuits are overloaded now.
Jane Barbe was the female voice at the Audichron Company, an Atlanta-based company that provided automatic tape playback machines to the government, to banks, to telephone companies, well, just about anybody who needed a voice on the telephone. I reached Jane Barbe by telephone, and I asked her if she thought when she started with Audichron that one day she would be the best-known female voice in the English-speaking world.
Of course not. I never thought about that, and I really don't think about it very much now, Dennis, because I think my knees would start knocking if I did. When I record, whether it be time and temperature or a weather message or a telephone intercept message, I think one-on-one. I'm talking to one person because the whole idea of the service is to try and make it personable and friendly and conversational so that people don't really feel like they're talking to a machine. So I don't really like to think about speaking to over 20 million people a day, which is what I'm told the statistic is. About half of that is divided between, I should say it's divided about half and half between people calling for time and temperature and weather or getting a telephone intercept message, like the number you have dialed is temporarily disconnected or is not in service, or I'm sorry, all circuits are overloaded now. Would you try your call again later, please? I know you've gotten a million of those.
I know, depending upon where you are in the country, sometimes the local time is just provided as a service by the phone company with no commercial message. Sometimes it is a savings and loan. There must be a great variety of sponsorships around the country that you've had to voice short commercials for.
Oh, of course. And there are different types of services, too, as you just said. We do a lot of financial institutions, of course, but there are shopping centers, automobile dealers. We have a couple of funeral homes that we do messages for. And I don't know, your listeners might be interested to know that my voice is heard not only in the United States, but in Hong Kong, and I'll tell you what time it is in Saudi Arabia, San Juan, the Bahamas, some parts of Canada. So, if I could just get to all these places physically now instead of vocally, I'd have it made.
Maybe you could convince some of those places that in order to have your taped, you have to come there to do them the first time.
Go on location, right.
Something that's always intrigued me is the fact that it would seem sometimes rather repetitious. Of course, you can hear the tape change. I presume you're just saying the hour, and then sometimes another machine kicks in and gives the minutes after. All of that basic announcing of the numbers, have you had to do that recently, or is that something that was done, say, 5-10 years ago and is now just used?
We do those about twice a year. It isn't because the tape wears out or stretches or anything like that. It's because the sponsor messages, which usually precede the time and temperature and weather announcements, are recorded weekly. Many places will change their announcements almost every week. Say a bank has a special promotion they want, or Christmas is coming and they're plugging Christmas Club savings accounts. Shopping centers have special sales. You might be interested in how we do them. Of course, everything is done out of context. The hours are done time 1, time 2, etc. Minutes, 45, 46, and 10 seconds, etc. So we go all the way through the hours, all the way through the minutes and seconds. For military installations like to have that, you see. And then it would come out saying time 1, 45, and 10 seconds. So the advertising announcements, which are usually 5 seconds long, we do have some that are 7 and some that are 10, and some old machines are only 4 seconds long. But they're brief, and since they are done separately from the times and the temperature, you can see that timing is crucial, so you must be on the button with the timing. And if you are 2 seconds, or rather 2/10 of a second over with your little announcement, then the last bit of that syllable is going to be chopped off, because it all must go into a predetermined time slot on the tape.
I wonder if you ever have time with first-time sponsors who send in their messages and have not learned the fine art yet of making things come out on time. Maybe they're told they have 5 seconds and they give you what turns out to be 9 or 10.
Yes, well, we do quite a bit of editing. Now, I must tell you, there are full-time writers who work for the Audichron Company who offer messages that the client can choose he can send back the copy that sent him, and then just check off 24 messages that he wants, or 12 messages, whatever. Or they may supply their own, and when they do, we have to tell them that they may have to undergo a little editing in order to make them fit, and they're usually very cooperative about that and give us the leeway to do it. Once in a while, we'll do it on the spot, right at the session. If it still is not short enough, well, I'm an ex-copywriter, so I have some skills in that department, and so do the people in the recording division of Autocron, so it's really not a big problem. We've handled that.
Jane, I don't want to cause an embarrassment here or tell tales out of school, but there seems to be in vogue now all these bloops and bleeps and bloopers and mistakes and things. Do you ever have a recording session where you just get laughing, or you really wouldn't dare want the tape to be heard by anybody outside the company?
Oh, absolutely. We all hit those stumbling blocks and end up rolling around on the floor with the giggles, till you just cannot say a word. And it takes, I used to get up and walk around my chair a time or two before I can continue. Certainly, it gets tongue tangled, and it sounds so absolutely ridiculous, you just get absolutely silly over it.
Well, now, Jane, you're from Florida, moved to Georgia, working for a company based in Atlanta. When you're doing a commercial, for example, for a Massachusetts savings and loan, do you consciously articulate or accent differently than you would, say, doing a commercial for Amarillo, Texas?
Well, Dennis, I used to. And I'll tell you, I don't anymore, because I've been asked the same question a number of times, and every time I have given an example, which I will do for you, invariably, the result is, I like the softer sound better. So what I used to do was something that I called an attitude. You can't talk faster because you have to fill up the time slot that we talked about before, and you can't talk slower for the South because you'd spill over and the last part of it would be cut off. So you have to keep your pacing the same, and so it's only and we don't go for accent. We try to have no accent at all so it will fit in any part of the country. So the only thing I could do with it was to just alter the sound of the voice a little bit. For the northeastern part, I used to do a little crisper delivery and put a little more edge in the voice. And then for the South, I took it out. And I'll give you a little example. A bedside phone means privacy for calls and security at night when Dad's away. Now, for Texas or Georgia or Florida, I would say, a bedside phone means privacy for calls and security at night when Dad's away. Do you hear the difference?
Yeah, I do. It's you have to keep the timing the same, but it has a little different edge on it.
Just a little different edge, but most people seem to prefer the softer sound, so I don't do it anymore. I just just go for a nice, pleasant, friendly sound. We don't want to sound like a lady announcer, because, as I said, we do want to keep it a personalized approach, one-on-one. And when I'm recording, Dennis, I really think I mentally conjure up somebody that I'm talking to. I don't want to sound like a machine, and I realize that there are certainly pitfalls when things are done out of context and it's all run by a computer. Some of the things are not as flowing as you would like. We do lose control of things. For instance, in the major cities around the country where there are the automated intercept machines that will tell you the number you have called in the 606 area has been changed, and it will give you the new number, and it also gives you the old number from to the new number, and each number in this was recorded out of context with two inflections. For instance, a neutral inflection would be 5, and a falling inflection, obviously, 5. So that if the number is 2552345, it would go 2, 5, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, the computer grabs the correct number with the correct inflection depending on where it falls in the series. And no matter how hard you try, we worked for 2 months on these voice tapes before we ever released the first one. No matter how hard you try, it still comes out sounding a little bit automated because of the stiff cadence. That is just a natural result because, let's face it, it takes a little bit longer to say 14 or 17 than it does 8.
Well, Jane Barbe, you certainly have, as I mentioned, the most familiar voice in the United States.
Thank you very much. I enjoy my work, and it introduces me to a lot of nice people like you, so it's very pleasant. I enjoy talking to you.
And there you have it, another edited episode of one of the American Montage programs prepared for the UPI Radio Network back in the 1980s and 90s. I'm Dennis Daly. Thanks for listening. Thanks for going with me this week. And check YouTube for more American Montage programs.